In a small courthouse in Bainbridge, Georgia, the air was heavy with anticipation, and the scent of old wood mixed with lingering anxiety. On that day, a 13-year-old boy named Darnell Freeman would change the course of a trial by speaking a truth no one expected. The courtroom was filled with a mix of local families, churchgoers, and those whose lives had been touched by a recent, controversial incident. At the center of this unfolding drama was the Freeman family, a name known around town for both its hard work and the recent painful events that had rocked the community. Darnell, slight and unassuming in his worn sneakers and brown corduroy pants, sat at the back of the courtroom. His backpack still hung loosely on his shoulders, as if he belonged in a classroom rather than a legal arena. In his hands he clutched a yellow, well-worn notebook, the repository of many sleepless nights spent scribbling legal definitions, old court rulings, and case summaries from library books he'd borrowed. For weeks after school and long past his bedtime, he had painstakingly filled those pages with notes, determined to understand the law enough to protect his older brother Marcus, who was now on trial. Marcus, the middle child of the Freeman family, had become the subject of a controversial incident. After a routine traffic stop turned violent, he was pulled from his car, searched, and charged with resisting arrest and assaulting an officer, charges that painted him as a threat when, in reality, he had done nothing more than ask a simple question. No drugs, no weapon, just a case built on vague suspicions and the fleeting smell of marijuana. The incident left their mother, Sheila, and older brother, Caleb, shattered, their lives forever marked by a system that seemed to forget the humanity behind the headlines. As the trial commenced, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The judge, a seasoned man named Alvin Pierce, presided over the proceedings with a measured authority that had seen many cases come and go. Yet today, no one could have predicted the quiet uprising that was about to take place. When the public defender was delayed by another hearing, the courtroom fell into a heavy pause. It was then that Darnell, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination, rose from his seat. Without raising his voice or causing a scene, Darnell walked purposefully to the front of the courtroom, his notebook clutched tightly as if it were a shield against injustice. The room fell silent as murmurs spread and curious eyes turned toward him. Judge Pierce, peering over his glasses with a mix of skepticism and curiosity, finally addressed him. "Can I help you, son?" the judge asked in a calm yet inquisitive tone. Darnell cleared his throat. "Your Honor, I wrote something for my brother," he began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "I know I'm not a lawyer, but I want to share it while we wait." A ripple of uncertainty passed through the courtroom. Sheila, his mother, whispered a plea to him. "Baby, no." But Darnell, resolute, pressed on. The judge exchanged a brief glance with the district attorney before nodding. "Very well, proceed," Judge Pierce said, his tone measured as he regarded the young boy. Taking a deep breath, Darnell placed his notebook on the defense table and began to read. "My name is Darnell Freeman, I'm in the 7th grade, and I came here because I can't sleep anymore, thinking about what happened to my brother." His voice, soft yet clear, filled the courtroom. "He didn't do what they said he did, and even if you don't believe that, what they did to him wasn't right." A hush fell over the room as he continued, turning a page in his notebook. "I read about the 4th Amendment, how it protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures. The police didn't have a good reason when they pulled him from his car, searched him and hurt him. They said they smelled something, but a smell is only a guess. It's not proof." The judge leaned back, absorbing every word. Darnell's calm, methodical reading was not the passionate outburst of a protester, but a carefully constructed argument based on facts he'd learned on his own. With each sentence, he recited details from legal cases he had studied: Terry v. Ohio, Mapp v. Ohio, and his words resonated with an honesty that cut through the courtroom's tension. "Isn't that illegal?" Darnell asked, pausing to let the question hang in the air. The silence that followed was palpable. "I'm not trying to make anyone mad, I just want to know if the law says that's not allowed." Because if my brother is treated like a criminal when nothing illegal was found, then who decides what is reasonable? At that moment, murmurs of agreement and disbelief began to rise among the onlookers. Even Marcus, who sat shackled next to a silent deputy, looked at Darnell with a new sense of respect and hope. After a few more measured lines, Darnell closed his notebook. "I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a kid who can't stand by and be silent when what happened to my brother goes against what's right." The courtroom remained silent for several long seconds before a few people started clapping softly. It wasn't a raucous ovation, but it was enough. A signal that his words had pierced through years of indifference. Then something unexpected happened. In the back row, a man in a suit pulled out his phone. He wasn't recording for the sake of sensationalism. He made a quiet call. That call, later traced to Anthony Craig, a respected private defense attorney from Columbus, would set in motion a series of events that dramatically shifted the case. Within minutes, the atmosphere in the courtroom changed. The judge's expression softened as he reconsidered the credibility of the evidence. During a brief recess, Anthony Craig met with Judge Pierce, citing inconsistencies in the officer's testimony and the lack of body camera footage for crucial moments of the traffic stop. When the court reconvened, Craig was allowed to join as co-counsel, and his presence lent new weight to the defense's argument. Over the following hours, as evidence was re-examined and legal motions filed, the prosecution's case began to crumble. The key evidence, a dashcam video that never captured the critical moments and a body camera recording that only started after the search had begun, failed to support the claims against Marcus. With mounting legal questions about the reasonableness of the stop and search, the charges lost their foundation. Later that day, after a long session of testimony and heated legal debate, Judge Pierce granted a motion to suppress all evidence obtained during the traffic stop. It was a partial victory, but one that sent a clear message. The actions of the arresting officers and the system that allowed them to act without proper justification would not be tolerated. Outside the courthouse, a tentative sense of relief began to spread. Marcus was released on his own recognizance, and the Freeman family, though still shaken, found a glimmer of hope. Later, as the family gathered on a quiet sidewalk, Marcus embraced Darnell tightly. Sheila, with tears in her eyes, whispered her gratitude for the bravery of her young son. In the weeks that followed, Darnell's life changed, subtly but indelibly. At school, his teacher commended him for his courage, and the principal even presented him with a brand-new leather-bound notebook as a symbol of the power of speaking out. Darnell continued to study law, not because he aspired to become a lawyer, but because he realized that knowledge was the first step in fighting injustice. Months later, standing in front of his civics class for a presentation, Darnell spoke with quiet conviction. "Every time we stay silent about something wrong," he said, "we give it more power. I didn't speak because I was brave. I spoke because I couldn't keep quiet anymore." His classmates clapped, and in that moment, a 13-year-old boy reminded everyone that even the smallest voice could set the wheels of justice in motion.